This is a recording of my birth experience of my failed VBAC. So I had 2 emergency C-sections, and the first 2 were 2 years apart, and the third one, which is the one I'm talking about now, the failed VBAC, was 8 years later. So I felt my body was ready. I had read, watched videos, and I was prepared. So I knew exactly what I was going to do. The only thing I did not do was really tell myself that I have to go into labor by myself, that I wasn't open to any external help. I was still flexible at this point. So I went to all the appointments, the consultant appointments, and they were telling me, oh, VBAC, we haven't done that in the hospital. We don't really recommend it after 2 C-sections, but we will allow it, and it will be good for our record. It will be good for the books. I'm like, okay. And they were like, if you don't go into labor by 40 weeks, we would like to induce you. I was still open to it at that point. I was still naive. I kind of knew that they would not help me much, but I felt because I was trying a different hospital and I told them what I wanted, they were open to it. So they told me what they were going to do in terms of the VBAC. That because I've had previous C-section, they would use a rod instead of giving me any other medication to induce labor. They'll put a rod in there and it soaks up the water and then it dilates me, and that's how they're going to induce labor. I was like, okay. They booked it in for like 41 weeks and 5 days or so. So I should call the hospital in the morning and then they would find a space for me. So I did, because I was overdue. I did my sweeps. I did like 3 sweeps. The 3rd sweep I had was like really painful. I felt it was going to work. I think that was when I was like 41 weeks. I had my bloody show, a big one, but it still did not lead to labor. I had castor oil as well. It still did not lead to labor. I had the midwife pro. It still did not lead to labor. So I called the hospital. They told me to come in. And when I got there, they checked me and they're like, I'm just 1 centimeter dilated. They don't think they're going to do the procedure that was written down, which was the rod. That I have to come the next day. They might have to just break my waters. I wasn't even thinking anymore because I was tired. I wasn't, thinking that, do I want them to break my water? I just thought, okay, they know best. It's a new hospital and they understand that I want a VBAC, so they will definitely push for a VBAC. Well, I came there the next day by myself. After waiting for a while, I was having contractions on and off. It wasn't just strong enough. Thinking about it now, it's just my body was preparing me for labor. I just had to wait. I was meant to wait and just let labor progress by itself. Well, I allowed them to break my water. When they broke my water, they found out that the water was not clear, so it had a bit of meconium. And they're like, oh, it's fine. I knew that it was fine too, as long as it wasn't a lot and you can labor. You just have to be careful. You don't want anybody touching you after that, after your water has been broken. But they did the opposite. They kept on checking me. Anyway, they broke my waters. I was progressing bit by bit, but the labor wasn't like, the contraction wasn't strong. And because I had already learned how to go through contractions, you can't tell if I'm having a strong contraction. I would just keep quiet and let the contractions go through. and then continue. But the contraction was spaced. They could see it on the monitoring device that when I was having contraction. So they left me that day. So I was there overnight. Contractions picked up very well because I was bouncing on the ball. I asked for the ball. I asked for the peanut ball. They didn't have it. I had my diffuser that had the lavender oil. I knew about the clear research, but I didn't have it. I didn't push to buy it. But I was asking for it later on, which they actually eventually got for me. But my midwife was not staying in the room. I had another assistant midwife that was there more often, and she was just sitting down and just watching me do whatever it is I wanted to do. There was no help whatsoever. I would ask, oh, what do you think I should do? They were like, oh, just keep doing what you're doing. Okay. So there wasn't any help. I was just bouncing on the ball, listening to music and just trying to, give myself all the strength. My husband bought lunch, just McDonald's, and they were like, oh, you can't eat it. Because I didn't have an appetite, but when I eventually got an appetite to eat, I was told I can't eat. I was like, I can't eat. They said, yeah, in case you go into emergency C-section. I'm like, but I'm pushing for a VBAC. I don't want a cesarean. They're like, oh, it's in your record that you might be up for surgery. So they already had what they wanted to do. But they wanted to put it in there. I know that they pleased me by, of course, breaking my water and seeing how things went without no extra help whatsoever. And for me, I knew I was strong enough to go through labor, but I didn't know that I had to be strong enough to fight every midwife and every doctor and every consultant that came in there as well. I didn't have the strength for that. Anyway, I stayed there overnight. The next day, middle of the night, contraction was really bad. I kept on asking them for me to go into the pool, that I would like to labor in the pool. They're like, oh, sorry, love. In your note, it says you're not allowed to go in the pool. I'm like, but they said I could go in the pool. I said, oh, sorry, you can't. And it was so depressing, to be honest, because a day before as well, for every consultant that came in, they kept on saying, who approved you to go for a VBAC after 2 C-section? I would mention the doctor's name and be like, oh, he's not around, but why would he do that? If I was the one, I wouldn't. So the next day, I had a black midwife at the next day. She came in. She seemed like she was really ready to help me with whatever it is that I wanted. She said she gave me paracetamol through drip to just help because I had a back labor. So I kept on telling my husband to press my back. But for every doctor that came in, all they just do is check me and, just discourage me and tell me, oh, you should go for a C-section. We're going to give you a couple of hours. And one thing I realized now is that I was actually, by the end, before I agreed to a C-section, a couple of hours before, I was feeling the urge to poop. And that was what I had with my last baby, and that I gave birth to vaginally. It was exactly the same thing. The only difference is that I was lying down in the hospital. I wasn't in the right position to get my body to do the right thing. In the position I was in lying down, I could still eventually push, but it would just take longer because I was not in the right position. But when I was at home with my 4th baby that had vaginal delivery, when I felt the urge to push, I was in the position to push without nobody checking me. So it wasn't about how dilated I was, it was how I could help my body dilate faster and effectively. The hospital does not encourage that. The hospital does not understand that. The hospital just keeps, they only solely depend on the monitor, depending on the check in your dilation, and it doesn't matter. You can go from 4 to 10 or 1 to 10 in less than an hour or a couple of minutes, depending on the position you're in. That's what I realized now. Anyway, they did frustrate me. They kept on coming and asking me, would like you to go for a C-section now. Would like to go for a C-section. It's better to go for a C-section. Nobody helped me with anything. Even at some point, the doctor was trying to talk to me and I said, I'm not interested that I'm having a contraction. And it was like, you're faking it. And the midwife was like, no, she's not faking it. She's actually having a contraction. It's there. So because I was calm and I had learned how to be calm and not scream my head off, they felt that I wasn't in pain. So I wasn't going to progress, but I was in so much pain. But I'd learned to manage my breathing and to just keep quiet through my contractions and focus on the positive. But they took it as, oh, she's not in so much pain. That means that she's not progressing. We don't think she's going to have a baby soon. If she was going to have the baby soon, she'll be screaming by now. Anyway, they forced. They called a Nigerian doctor to come and speak to me. He started talking, oh, if it was my wife, I wouldn't allow her to go through this. I was like, you just checked me now. I said I'm at 8 centimeters. 2 centimeters to 10 centimeters. I could have any baby anytime soon. Why don't you just let me do it? They're like, oh, sorry. We just have to. We have the space now. We have the surgery ready. The surgeons are ready. So basically what they're trying to do is they are going through their own schedule and trying to make sure that they fit you into their own timing, not the timing of your body. With a C-section, doesn't matter when your body is ready or not, they would actually do it. And that was how they pushed and pushed. I told them, my husband is not around. He's going to pick the kids from school. He'll be back soon. So it doesn't matter. Your husband does not matter. We only need your consent. As soon as you sign these papers, we have your consent and we are ready to go. And as soon as I signed those papers, everybody disappeared. Everybody disappeared. It was only my midwife that was with me. And I said, wow. So I felt so pressured to sign the damn papers. It wasn't a birth anymore. It was more of like fighting for my life. It was myself versus all the medical teams because they had to have each other's back. So the midwives could not think clearly on how to advise you. They have to go with what the consultant says. And I was so disappointed, not in myself, but disappointed in the whole medical system. And watching and reading online, I realized that people are still going through that till today. And I'm just saying, how can we even change it? And which is why I'm doing this diary. I'm just recording things that have happened before I forget, and to let people listen to it and to realize that you have to have more strength. Let your partner listen to it as well, and to see that many of the things that the doctors are saying, you know when they are saying jargons, and you know when they are saying the real deal. You know when they are making things up. Whoever is there at that particular time, your partner or anybody, your betting partner, should try as much as possible to filter through what the doctors and nurses are saying and to go with your gut sometimes and see if you're putting, because they would tell you, they will lie to you that you're putting yourself in danger. I kept on hearing, you're going to die, your baby is going to die. And I'm thinking to myself, no, just help me go through this together. Let's do it together. Change my position. I kept on begging for them to lift me up the damn bed. That I told you guys on my note, I don't want to be strapped to a bed. But I'm strapped to a bed right now. I need someone to lift me up. Nobody did change my position. Until the black midwife came that helped a little bit. But they were confusing her as well. They kept on coming into the room, asking her to do this, asking her to do that. So she couldn't really concentrate on me. And I see the difference between this, the third birth, and my successful VBAC, and you realize that all those fuss was mostly about nothing. There are serious things happening in the hospital, I agree, during childbirth. But many times, it's just them making up things just for their own good, just for their own schedule. Just for their own satisfaction. They don't want any trouble. They don't want any fuss. They don't want any challenges. Challenges that they're the one creating because they're not putting you in the position of birth. They're strapping you to the bed. They keep on checking you, making you prone to infection. I had to stay in the hospital for a week because their system keeps on saying that we have infection, myself and my child, while we are both okay. And I'm like, we're both okay. They're like, oh, we just keep on running tests. We don't want any problem. They just want to tick the boxes. And my stay at the hospital for 1 week without nothing. My child was okay, I was okay, but they just said they wanted to just be sure and be okay. I wasn't treated well. I was breastfeeding. Every time the ward I was in, the nurse would just come, open the blinds. I'd be like, oh, we don't close blinds here. But I'm breastfeeding. When the visitors are around, do you want them to I'll be exposed? They will open it and they will say that I'm breastfeeding and they will close it back. I'm sorry. Like, then why are you opening it in the first place? Why are you not giving me privacy? In the first 2 days, I was so tired with everything going on. And they would serve the food. I'll be asleep, but they would leave the food there. I would wake up to a cold lunch or a cold dinner or a cold breakfast sometimes. I'm like, this is meant to be a hospital. Hospitality is meant to be the key. But why are you guys behaving like this? It's not about being short-staffed, it's about being human. I had midwives that were not in the room. And the first one I had, the first day I got there, I asked her later on, you keep on going out of the room. The person you're looking after, have they given birth? She was like, no, I'm not looking after anybody. I'm looking after only you. I just keep going to go check on my other colleagues to see if they need help. I'm like, wow. But I need help. You're in charge of me. Why are you not helping me through this? You're busy doing nothing. And it's not fair on us as mothers. And I see people saying that even if you go with your doula sometimes, your doula to understand the system and they try to work with the system, they don't advocate for you. So you have to advocate for yourself. And it's not nice. That's not where your strength should be when you go for a childbirth. So that's how I had my failed VBAC, which was, that's how I had my third emergency C-section. But I didn't give up, as you can see and watch and listen in my successful VBAC story. So for me, my own is, if you really want a VBAC or you want a vaginal birth from the get-go, you have to understand many things and understand what is going on in the hospital, in the medical field. Baby's crying a bit. He's not awake, but you need to understand what is going on in the medical field and knowing that you have to fight for yourself if you really want something. It's either you wait it out at home, enjoy yourself, try to find a balance, and when you feel that you can't take it anymore, if you're close to the hospital, you go to the hospital. And if you can give birth at home, give birth at home. Whatever it is that you feel comfortable, as long as you can sense when there's trouble in most cases. Not the scary one that, sometimes we scare ourselves because we feel that we don't know about childbirth, but our body does know. And when there is trouble, you can sense it in most cases. Then you can go to the hospital then. Because many times when you hear people say, oh, I gave birth at the hospital lobby, I gave birth in the car, because they waited. And that's what the hospital wants, because they would not help you. They will just give you all the things that they've tried, and they say, oh, we'll try this on you, we'll try this on you. We'll see which one works, and if it doesn't work, we go for an emergency C-section. They have just one way of doing things, and I don't want you to question it. That's just what I've realized, and that's why I discovered. And I just wanted to share it with people, just for you to understand how these things work. Only for people who want a vaginal birth. If you're okay with a CS, go ahead with it. You don't have any business listening to this at all. But if you really want a vaginal birth, then you know that you have to work for it, consciously or non-consciously. So either you stay at home, go through your labor at home, and when you get to the hospital, voila, you'll be 10 centimeters ready to pop, or just give birth at home. But starting to rely on the hospital for induction, they try different things on you. Remember everything, because all the induction methods, they have to try to see which one your body agrees with. So they have to try different things, or just try one thing over and over again and see how much doses they have to give you. And those kind of things discourages you when they check you and you're 1 centimeter dilated, or not even dilated at all. And you know, the worst thing about my third birth was that I finally found that, because it was the same hospital I did all my tests for my fourth pregnancy, was that towards the end, when they were trying to convince me to have a planned CS, was that during my emergency section for my third pregnancy, my failed VBA2C, the baby was already in the birth canal. The baby was already so low that doing a cesarean was not easy for them. They had to give birth to my baby leg first. And in my culture, that's not right. But that's what they did. They had to bring out the legs first and then try to tuck the baby out of the birth canal. Why? Because they wanted a CS and they couldn't see. I think what they're always curious about is they want to see what is happening in there, and feeling with their hands alone, they can't see. And now they got in there and they realized that having a C-section was not even necessary in the first place, because the baby was already about to come out. They just had to let me do what my body was saying. And I said, wow, why? Why would you do that? They said then because they didn't know what was happening. So they just had to get in there. Many people are having cesarean that they don't need to have. And it's just so sad. The amount of time they kept on pressuring me. You need to sign the papers, you need to sign the papers. They brought the Nigerian guys, oh, and you see that he's handsome, he's from your country. I'm like, why am I looking at someone else's husband, for goodness sake? During labor, why are you telling me that someone else is handsome? What is my business with that? But I understand they're all in their work environment, they're all colleagues, isn't it? For them it's fun. For them, it's just one challenge they have to get through. Get that woman to sign the damn papers, and then we can move on to the next one. I realize it's all fun and games for them. And I realized I was in the wrong place, doing the right thing, of course, giving birth. So I swore to myself, I would definitely not go through that again. And I don't want people to go through that. I want people to realize that you need to listen to yourself as well, as much as they are professionals, but they are human beings as well, and they like to do things a certain way. You have to balance your own life as well. For my last pregnancy, I just did not see a consultant, because it's so sad that you get to go for a scan and a consultant, and then you have a scan within 20 minutes of you being there, and you have to wait 1 or 2 hours to see a doctor afterwards. And you have 3 other children to take care of at home. I refuse to do that. But they are saying that, oh, they are doing you a favor, so you should wait that long. For what? For 5 minutes appointment to tell you that everything is fine. And you've already seen on your notes everything is fine. So it's up to you. Hospitals are good, but when it comes to childbirth, I think they are really, really lacking a lot and putting us through so many things that we don't need to be going through. Emotions, trauma that we don't need to be having. And if you can prevent it, I think you should just go for it. Watch other videos, listen to people that are speaking passionately about this, and you understand why. You don't have to experience a bad thing before you can learn from it. It's best to learn from people and know how to go. Especially if you are black, African. The profiling is high. They profile you based on your race, on your age as well. That they don't even want to do anything to help you. So you have to help yourself. I've seen people give birth at the age of 40. And knowing that many of the tests they do, the research they do, is mostly for white people, young people, a certain demographic. So you just have to be careful. Honestly, the study says that just know your own body and go through and do the right things for your body. The right vitamins, the right medication, natural herbs, everything to help your own body to get the right results. So I just wanted to share my story on my unsuccessful VBAC. That's after 2 C-section, I had another emergency C-section, but at least I got my fourth baby with a vaginal birth. Watch the video. I have the link up somewhere for you to click and watch it.